You know, war is over if you want it. Really? Yes, indeed. Stacy.
Well, many great people throughout history have said that. Certainly great thinkers, great singers, great artists, and great businessmen. Maybe this guy, not necessarily a great guy, but he was a good businessman, and that is Henry Ford. 100 years ago, Henry Ford suggested that wars could forevermore be prevented if only there was a currency denominated in kilowatt hours. Question: does this sound like something that now exists? Hint: think Bitcoin. Time for a thread. And this is from a guy who had, he's a co-founder of Galloy, which is like that wallet being used in El Salvador. And he was responding to yet another piece of FUD from the New York Times, where they were like, Bitcoin uses more electricity than many countries, and that this is a bad thing. But what this thread is going to show is that that's actually a good thing, and exactly as Henry Ford and others, by the way, economists like Mises and Hayek and stuff like that, were saying that energy-backed money, as well as Buckminster Fuller, were saying energy-backed money is the best option.
Right, exactly. The New York Times piece is formidably off the mark, right? Because think about it, Bitcoin's becoming the global standard, monetary standard, and it's being secured at the moment with less than 0.5% of all the energy produced on planet Earth. And we know that 25% of all the energy produced is wasted energy. So a very small, minuscule amount of wasted energy that just gets wasted, not used, is used to secure a monetary network that ensures that 8 billion people have individual sovereignty and monetary freedom. So it's incredibly efficient versus everything else that's come before it. Now, in terms of it being backed by kilowatt hours and Henry Ford's observation, it's absolutely true. And essentially, Bitcoin is a realization of that dream.
Yeah, and it's important to remember, it's kind of off topic of the energy story, but the fact is that this is so unique in history in that you've had oil, or you've had gold, or you had central banks. And those were, some countries were uniquely endowed with that. And some countries, like with the central bank era, are uniquely endowed with a huge amount of force and violence that they can inflict on everybody else to use their currency. But all of them were either centralized in some way. We see that with Saudi Arabia and the US relationship at the moment. But Bitcoin is totally decentralized and totally distributed, and anybody, because of the way it uses energy, it could capture that stranded energy, and like places that were just left off the financial and banking and economic grid for centuries, decades, that they could be put back on, that they don't need to now beg Washington, D.C. for some handouts to be sent to, like, say, somewhere in South Africa, which has one of the highest rates of renewable energies in the world, the solar power available to them should they wish to tap it. Like, you can capture that stranded energy now because of Bitcoin. And I do want to add to those in El Salvador watching this, the dubbed in Spanish version, I want to warn you, now that everybody in the world knows you're airdropped some Bitcoin, and just be aware online, Max will not be contacting you. There are a lot of imposter accounts of Max. So we noticed when Max tweeted in Spanish recently, there were a bunch of scammers pretending, like new scammers emerging to try to contact you. So make sure not to give away your Bitcoin to anybody online. And in terms of this, break the control and you stop war. Break the control of the money and you stop war. Henry Ford saw this. And this is one of the shortcomings of gold, is that the vast majority of it is in the hands of the central banks. And they can do with it what they will. They control it. So they could make war wherever they want. Bitcoin is not controllable. Even somebody like Michael Saylor, who's just buying up billions and billions of dollars of it, Bitcoin has already proven in 2017 that no oligarch can stop it, because the algorithm and the distributed nature of it prevents that from ever happening. There's no one guy to appeal to. If you want the Fed to do something for you, flash back to 2008, in the middle of the worst part of the financial crisis in October. Who did Jim Cramer at CNBC appeal to? He appealed to Ben Bernanke, and Ben Bernanke listened. Print more money, lower rates, bail out the banks, and he did it, right? There's nobody to appeal to in Bitcoin. You can't, cause these imbalances. You can't interfere in the flow of the funds. You can't stop the network.
The imbalances correct themselves very quickly. Just like you're driving a car, you're constantly correcting yourself when you're driving a car, and the net result is you're going where you're going to go. If you just kind of pointed the car that way and went to sleep, it wouldn't work out well. And that's pretty much the policy we have in the United States and around the world today, is that central bankers really don't think through much what they're doing. They just print the money, and then they go and have a cocktail and at lunch and go out to the Hamptons, and they forget about it for weeks and months and years on end. They haven't had a new thought in their head in the Federal Reserve Policymaking Committee now for almost 20 years.
Now, again, the central banks, the elite thinkers of the cable news class, they're against Bitcoin because they say it uses energy, but everybody from Buckminster Fuller to Henry Ford to Frederick Hayek all pointed out that that would be the best sort of currency to have. Now we cut to that money printer go brr, and look what they have caused, and look how they are able to control gold. And you can see that in this M2 money goes brr. Here's the charts for Bitcoin, stocks, and gold adjusted for money supply expansion. And you see money supply, the huge surge last year. Then this is Bitcoin, and this is the S&P 500. And there's gold has been declining lockstep as M2 is going up. Now, a lot of people say that's because of manipulation, that obviously this is what central banks look at the gold price. Alan Greenspan had admitted that in FOMC minutes that were released. Everybody knows that they look at the price of gold to see if people are going to keep on buying into that scheme and accept the money printer go brr. And this is adjusted the growth trajectory on the same scale. This is Bitcoin, this is the S&P 500, and that's gold versus the M2 money supply. So Bitcoin is going up.
Right. You can search online for a film that Max and Stacy made called As Good as Gold, approximately 16 years ago, which outlined this exact same thing. And so this is not new, and this is the fact that we've been living with. Bitcoin changes everything, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, much more coming your way.
Bitcoin changes everything. War is over if you want it.